Chapter 59. The Night Greyfard Burned, Part 11. For several moments, nothing happened. The battlefield remained silent. Morvith stood motionless. Lysara struggled to remain conscious. Salira tightened her grip on her spear. And Alex stood completely still, head lowered, fists trembling, breathing heavily. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Elira noticed it first. Her eyes widened slightly, because the aura surrounding Alex had begun changing. It wasn't growing stronger. It was becoming unstable, wild, violent, as if two completely different forces were colliding inside his body. Alex, her voice came out as little more than a whisper. But Alex didn't hear her. Inside his mind, only one image remained. Lysara, covered in blood, still trying to protect him, still telling him to run, still placing herself between him and death. Again, and again, and again, the image refused to disappear. The more he remembered it, the more something inside him twisted, until eventually, guilt transformed into anger, and anger transformed into hatred. Hatred toward Morvith, hatred toward himself, hatred toward his own weakness. His heart pounded harder, faster, louder, until it felt less like a heartbeat, and more like a war drum. Boom, 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 boom. Every beat echoed through his entire body. Every beat fed the thing sleeping deep inside him. Then suddenly, a familiar voice appeared. A voice he hadn't heard in a long time. Linareth. So, the ancient voice echoed softly. You finally understand. Alex's eyes widened. The world around him disappeared. Only darkness remained. And within that darkness, two crimson eyes slowly opened. Watching him, waiting. You wanted power. Linareth's voice sounded amused. You wanted strength. The darkness around Alex began shaking violently. You wanted to protect those important to you. The crimson eyes narrowed. Yet here you stand, powerless. Alex clenched his fists. Every word hurt, because every word was true. Linareth slowly laughed. Not mockingly, not cruelly, almost knowingly. Hatred, pain, desperation. The darkness began cracking. Red light leaked through the fractures. The perfect fuel. Back in reality, the battlefield suddenly trembled. The surviving warriors looked around in confusion. The air itself had changed. Even Morvith's eyes narrowed, because he could feel it. Something was waking up. Something dangerous. Crack. A crimson fracture appeared beneath Alex's feet. Then another. Then another. The ground spread apart like shattered glass. Dark crimson aura erupted from his body. Not upward, outward, like a tsunami. Boom! The shockwave flattened sections of the battlefield instantly. Nearby guards were thrown backward. Even experienced warriors struggled to remain standing. The palace itself trembled. Alex slowly lifted his head, and everyone froze, because his eyes had changed. Crimson, ancient, predatory, the eyes of something that should not exist. Something that belonged to a different era. Elira felt her heart stop. Salira tightened her grip on her spear. Nightmare took an unconscious step backward. Even Two-Head Dragon stopped smiling, because none of them had ever seen Alex like this before. Not once. Then, above the battlefield, the clouds began moving. No, they weren't moving. They were splitting apart, as if something enormous was forcing its way through reality itself. A gigantic shadow appeared high above the capital, far larger than the palace, far larger than any creature they had ever seen. Only part of it was visible. A claw, a monstrous claw. The citizens of Greyfard looked upward, terrified, confused, unable to understand what they were witnessing. The night sky itself seemed to scream. Reality cracked, space distorted, and the gigantic claw continued descending. Slowly, inevitably, like the judgment of a forgotten god. Morvith finally stopped walking. For the first time that night, his expression changed. Not fear, but caution, real caution, because his instincts screamed the same warning. If that thing touched him, he would die. Meanwhile, Alex slowly raised one trembling hand toward the heavens. Blood dripped from his fingers. His entire body shook violently. Yet he spoke, and his voice no longer sounded completely human. Claw, the sky cracked further. The colossal shadow responded. The capital trembled. Buildings collapsed. The clouds vanished entirely. And above them all, the gigantic claw finally revealed itself. Destruction. The world held its breath. So, you just listened to Chapter 59, Part 11, The Night Greyfard Burned. But now the biggest question remains. Will Alex truly unleash the claw of destruction? Or will that ancient power consume him before it reaches Morvith? The answer awaits in Part 12. If you're enjoying this audiobook series, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter. See you in Chapter 59, Part 12.